Hi friends! Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video because it is an exciting collaboration that has been in the works for a little while, and today I finally get to tell you about it. Leanne Likes and I are co-hosting a pen and ink giveaway. First, I have to talk about Leanne Likes. I've been a fan and subscriber of Leanne's channel for a while now. In case you're new to her channel, she creates the most calming and grounding videos. She has such a great eye for showcasing gorgeous inks and somehow strikes a balance between describing them in a really relaxed, casual, and yet informative way. If you followed the 8-pen questions train that her and Simona hosted earlier this year, you may already be familiar with her inclusive approach within the fountain pen community. So after you finish watching this video, please make sure you head over to her channel for the second part of our big giveaway. I will link her video in this video's description. And if you are coming here from her channel, welcome! It's so nice to meet you. My name is Allison and I mainly create videos about planners, journals, fountain pens and inks, any kind of creative hobby, honestly. And also I like to talk a lot about what I'm learning in the mental health and wellness space. And sometimes I combine all of those things in the same video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the joy of experimenting and how I took my time to experiment and explore two of my first fountain pens that really helped me fall in love with the whole fountain pen hobby in the first place. The Pilot Metropolitan in a fine and the Pilot Metropolitan in the medium nib. For the rest of this video, I'm going to be focused on answering a few questions that I had early on when I got my first Pilot Metropolitan pen in the medium, and then eventually when I got the fine nib as well, which are: what is the difference between the fine and medium nib? Which one do I prefer, and why? I'll talk about the different ways that I wanted to use the pens, so the different use cases that I knew I wanted to use them for. I'll share a few writing comparisons on different types of paper that I was able to collect for this video. And then I'll talk about what I learned through my experimentation process. And at the end of all of that, I will talk about why I've decided to pass these two pens along to one of you as part of our giveaway, and I'll share some details on how to enter our giveaway at the end of the video. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I invite you to settle in with your journal or planner and a cozy beverage while we hang out and chat about pens, papers, and different ways to experiment with them. Alright, let's get into the video. So for my pen comparison, I'm going to show you how these two pens write on different types of paper. And to make the comparison a little easier, I'm going to use the same ink, which is Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki. It is a well-loved ink in the fountain pen community, and it's actually one of the first samples of ink that I bought. And the reason why I'm choosing to use Konpeki over Asagao, which is my other favorite Pilot Iroshizuku blue ink, is because when I first got my sample of Konpeki, I actually put it in my Pilot Vanishing Point to test it out, and I didn't really like it. It wasn't until I decided to try it out in some of my other pens, particularly my Pilot Vanishing Point in a medium nib, so a much bigger nib, that I fell in love with this ink and finally understood why it is such a popular ink. One of the use cases that was really important to me was how was this pen going to fare when I was in meetings. Other use cases for my pens are long form journaling, planning, and note-taking, and letter writing. So for long form journaling at the time, I was using this Leuchtturm 1917. So I have a ton of these notebooks because I was just cycling through these notebooks, and I used to use ballpoint pens and gel pens. And then when I got these fountain pens, this was something that I was testing out. And then planning, I used to use my traveler's notebook. So I've got a bunch of my inserts here, and I was primarily using MD paper. And then for note-taking, I was using these Moleskine notebooks. I really liked these, but I did find that some of my fountain pens did bleed through on this paper, which is what actually led me to experiment with different types of paper. So this is the Pilot Metropolitan in the medium, and this is a steel nib. So this is the Pilot Metropolitan in the fine nib. So you can see here that the lines, I don't know if you can see, but the lines are different. Another thing that I will do is I'll just do a side-by-side line comparison. Oops. Okay, well, hope you don't mind that. So I don't know if you can see that, but they're very similar. I was at the time quite obsessed with the idea of getting a pen that would rival my 0.38 MUJI pen. I would say I'm less concerned about that now. Another way that I really enjoyed experimenting was with different inks. So having an opportunity to cycle through different inks was one of the biggest selling points for me when I was making the switch from my gel and ballpoint pens to fountain pens. At the time, I was really fixated on finding the perfect blue ink, and it was so fun to buy different ink samples and try them out in these two pens, and having more than one pen meant that I could test more than one ink at a time, so I really liked that. So let's take a look at how this actually writes on this MUJI paper. I don't know if this is like marketed as being fountain pen friendly, but these notebooks are so affordable that last time I was in MUJI, I just picked a few of them up. Okay, so that's the fine nib. And you can see there's actually no bleed through or no ghosting. Let's try the medium. And actually you can see, same thing. So between these two pens, it's actually seeming like this paper is pretty fountain pen friendly. Why don't we try this one out? Because I have been really curious. So here's another example on this paper, the difference between the fine and the medium. So you can see the medium is definitely a thicker line compared to the fine. And with this paper, there's actually no ghosting or no bleed through. So this is a really nice, smooth paper to write on. It kind of feels like there's some kind of coating on it, similar to the Tomoe River paper. This is a thicker paper. Next up, we will do the MD paper because I personally find this paper feels quite different to the smoother papers, and I really love the writing experience on MD paper and how inks show up. So let's do a really quick writing sample. So there's another comparison. And I really love seeing how the inks change depending on the papers that I'm using and how they feel. So I find that experimenting with different types of paper is not only a fun way to keep things interesting when I'm using these pens, but it also allows me to learn more about my preferences and inform future purchase decisions. So things that I paid attention to when I was experimenting with these different papers and use cases was I would pay attention to things like how much could I fit on one line. Obviously, the finer the pen, the more I could fit on a notebook, and I tend to take notes in the A5 size notebook or whatever this size is. I'm not actually sure, but for the longest time, this size was my go-to when it came to note-taking. I also paid attention to how quickly I could take notes. I'm not really a slow, deliberate writer. I'm very much like a messy scribbler, and certain pens just lend themselves better to, you know, taking really quick notes and not worrying about hard starts or pens running out. And with these two pens, they just performed beautifully for me, except when I would be taking notes, and if I was in a meeting and, you know, I would take a note and then I would leave my pen open, which is kind of how I typically use pens in meetings, I would start to run into trouble where I would get hard starts. I don't know if I can demonstrate that in the video, but this was a really big deal for me because sometimes I'm in meetings that are an hour long and I'm trying to pay attention to what's going on in the meeting and stay focused in it. But occasionally I'll stop and take notes, and when I would start to try to take a note, if I had a hard start, I can't demonstrate it now, but I would have to kind of do this in the middle of a meeting just to get the ink running again. If I was in a meeting and I would take a note and I was pausing, I would kind of have the cap half on like this, and I would just cover the pen. And then when it was time again, you know, I would take a note and then I would sort of slip it in and just leave it like that. And honestly, that really drove me crazy. I found it really annoying. I found even, you know, capping and uncapping during a meeting would be distracting for me and would just cause me to lose my train of thought. And so it was really problematic for me. And that's what led me into researching and eventually investing in my first vanishing point. And like I think a lot of other people who are looking into upgrading their pens, one of the questions is, what nib size do I get? I did a lot of research online. I watched a lot of videos. I even at one point I tested out writing like how it felt to hold a pen with a clip here, because I had heard that this is really similar to a vanishing point. So I just found, doing these kinds of comparisons really helpful. Considering this is all using the same ink, I think that's really interesting. Another thing that I find really interesting is the fact that my Pilot Metros seem to be showing up a lot darker in the writing, but with the vanishing point you can see a lot more shading and variation in the way it writes. I found these two pens just gave me so much information that helped me learn a lot more about what I really liked about fountain pens, what I didn't like about them, and then eventually when I was ready to upgrade, I felt like I could make a much more informed decision. So what did I learn from experimenting with these two pens? First of all, I just had so much fun discovering how they wrote with different papers. I experimented with white paper, cream paper, Tomoe River paper, my Leuchtturm, my Moleskine. I had never really paid so much attention to paper until I got into fountain pens. So it was really fun to learn more about the world of paper types and experiment in that way. I also learned that I really love Pilot nibs. I have been slowly branching out into other pen brands. My first two pens were actually this Kaweco and this Lamy Safari, and I would say all of these pens are kind of in the same family of beginner starter pens. And I wasn't really that excited about these two pens, even though I prefer the way they look and I prefer their neutral color schemes. But the nibs on these two Pilot pens just completely blew me away. This didn't come up in any of my testing today, but I did have a few papers where I noticed that my medium nib, Metropolitan, would bleed through on certain papers, and this one didn't. So even though these lines are pretty similar, I found it really interesting that it felt like this was a pen that I could use on everything, so most of the time, and then this was one that I had to be a little more careful about. And I also found that the finer the nib, so this one being a little finer, sometimes that would scratch the fibers on some of my papers. So that's actually what led me into discovering Hobonichi in the first place, because I then learned more about Tomoe River paper and how thin the paper was for Hobonichi books and how you could fit so much because the paper was so much thinner. And so I was just fascinated by that, and I fell down the rabbit hole of wanting, really thin fountain pen friendly paper. While I think these are some of the best starter pens out there, and I'm so grateful that I was able to try out these two pens, I did run into some issues while using them, which caused me to pack them away, and these two pens have been sitting in my pen roll for probably almost a year at this point. And I haven't really been reaching for them at all. So that is why I have decided to co-host this giveaway with Leanne and give away these two pens. Since it can be so hard to decide between nib sizes, I want to gift both of these pens to someone so they can make these comparisons and try them on different papers and try them with different inks. And hopefully these pens will allow someone to learn more about their preferences, and if they ever decide that it's time for them to move on and maybe upgrade to a different pen, then maybe they can pass these along to someone else as well. So as my contribution to the giveaway, I'm going to be giving away these two pens, and I'm also going to give away some paper that they can experiment on. Definitely I'm going to include some of this Tomoe River paper. I do think it is the Sanzen paper, just so you know, but I will give some of these loose leaf papers away, and I might throw in a few other surprises. So this will be your kit to testing out these two pens and learning more about what you like or dislike about them. These pens will come in the original box, and I will also include the converters that come with the pens. So I don't know what these converters are called, but they're like the squeeze types. So you can put this in ink and squeeze this and it sucks the ink up. They're not my favorite converters. So if you are the recipient of these two pens, I would consider filling these up with a cartridge. So I think in this one, I just have a regular cartridge that I've cleaned out and added my own ink to it with a syringe. So that's one thing that you could do. Or you can invest in some of their other cartridges, like this one. I think this one came with the Decimo, and it's like a screw converter. Honestly, if there's one complaint that I have, I would say the Pilot converters are not that great. So my favorite way to fill up my Pilot pens is to use the empty cartridges. I find it's the easiest, and they're really easy to clean. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on filling up the pens. So these two pens, some papers, and maybe a few little surprises, that is what I will be giving away. To enter the giveaway, you need to like this video and make sure that you are subscribed to my channel, and also subscribe to Leanne Likes YouTube channel. And then please leave a comment down below in this video and let me know your favorite ways to use your fountain pens or non-fountain pens if you haven't tried a fountain pen yet. Or you can tell me about how you would use these two pens if you were the winner of the giveaway. Then I'm gonna ask you to head on over to Leanne Likes channel and watch her video and leave a comment to her questions. And then once you've completed all of that, you can enter your information into the Google form that we will both have linked in our video descriptions to be considered your official entry into the giveaway, and give us an opportunity to contact you if you are selected as the winner. This giveaway entry period will be open until August the 23rd, 2024, 8:59 p.m. PST or 11:59 EST. After which we will randomly select one winner for my portion of the giveaway, and then Leanne also has some exciting things that she will be giving away as well. We will post on our community tabs who the winner is. We are not going to be responding to comments to tell you that you're the winner. So if you see a comment on your comment that you were the winner, that is not us. So that is not how you will be notified. You will be notified by a post on our community tab, and we will also email you using the email that you provide in the Google form. There will be one winner where I will ship my portion of the giveaway and Leanne will do the same. And this giveaway is open to participants worldwide, but do know that there are some international shipping restrictions that might apply if the winner is outside of North America. So please bear with us as we navigate any potential shipping complications. We will keep you updated throughout the process. I just wanted to call that out in case there are any issues. Feel free to ask any questions in our comment section in case you are unsure. Basically, it's a comment, a like, a subscribe, and then a entry into that Google form. Okay, that is everything that I wanted to share with you today. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite ways to use your fountain pens or non-fountain pens are. And then please head on over to Leanne's channel to check out her video. All right, well, I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.